if you watch the recent Trump speeches, you see him mix up names more. You see that he's slower. I don't want to say that he's not sharp anymore. He doesn't say anything that isn't funny. He doesn't like insult his opponents. Of course, he still insults his opponents, but it's difficult for him to stay on message. It always has been. But when he's attacking like Joe Biden, when he's supposed to be attacking Kamala Harris now, when he's mixing up Nancy Pelosi and he's mixing her up with Nikki Haley, when you see him like take 20 to 25 second long pauses. And I mean, look, I understand, like in a 2.5 to 3 hour speech, you're gonna have pauses. But if you remember early Trump, the energy is not there as it was before. And to be honest, this isn't really a scandal. This isn't really even much of a news story if it was just Trump outside of politics. If it was just like an everyday, we went just back to being a businessman. But now that he's the oldest nominee in American history, and he's always been out there saying some pretty wild stuff, you know, and thinking some pretty wild stuff about, for example, our stealth fighter jets actually being invisible like the Wonder Woman. There was Sharpie Gate, which was, I thought, particularly embarrassing. The story about what he wanted to do with the hurricanes and the nuclear weapons, but of course we don't have 100% verification of that. But these are just one of many, many, many stories. And then you add 78 years of age, oldest nominee in American history. I mean, we're talking about older than Reagan ran when he ran, and it was an age issue then. He was older than when Biden was running back in 2020, and it was an age issue then. He is now the oldest nominee in American history. And so you add these two things together, and I think we should be paying close attention to how he performs in these 2 to 3 hour long speech environments, because when you think about it, these are like the perfect testing grounds for somebody becoming slower with age. Trump doesn't do 5, 10, 15-minute stumps really that much. I mean, he does like it at like different bars and like different like diners and stuff. He'll do quick stops like that. But when you see his speeches, it's mostly him. He has some like set up acts, but it's mostly him. And so if you can see 3 hours 4 years ago, 3 hours 8 years ago, and 3 hours today, you see a real difference. And so I think we should be paying more attention to it. And I think that when Kamala Harris is ahead in Georgia, ahead in Nevada, ahead in Arizona, and within basically statistically tied in North Carolina. I mean, they're statistically tied in all of these states when it comes to the margin of error. But Kamala Harris is seemingly, if we were to flip a coin, there's a decent, a more than good percentage chance she would come out on top. And 4 or 5 weeks ago, that would have been considered impossible to believe. Definitely considering these circumstances and what our favorability was like before Biden dropped out. I mean, everything has kind of gone well for the Democrats as of recent. The Trump assassination, while it's very fortunate that, you know, nobody died, and if the impact on our democracy would be, I think, very bad, the sympathy vote that people thought might come with that did not manifest. When Biden dropped out and Kamala jumped in, her favorability went up, her polling numbers have went up, the fundraising has gone up, way past Republican fundraising. I mean, she's doing well. She picked a good VP pick. His favorability ratings are up. The Republicans picked a bad VP pick, J.D. Vance, when they were ahead. That is now coming back to haunt them. And so I think, as of right now, Trump might start to feel like, and I'm starting to see indications of, that he needs to get back in the saddle. He needs to get back out there. He needs to start behaving like he's an underdog and not like he has it in the bag, which around that RNC convention, it really did have that vibe. That is how they were treating it, like they had already won the election. And so I am considering whether or not the same Donald Trump we saw in 2016, we're going to even be able to see the images of him going into these final months of the elections with 78-year-old oldest nominee Donald Trump, who, can he get back into the saddle at this point? Can he run the same speed of campaign that Kamala Harris is running? Can he run the same speed of campaign that he used to? And can he do it considering that he also has to do it with legal stops on the campaign trail And he's basically built the party around himself. So the man's pretty busy. The man's very busy. And he's keeping himself busy. And I'm starting to notice a few things that are making me think that this song and dance is a little too old for the American public. One of the biggest examples of this I wanted to talk about as of recent is now that Trump's polling numbers are down, now that he is down in the polls, I feel like he has started to throw off his advisors. Back in 2016, when he was first running for office, I remember it was, oh, you know, his advisors are going to reel him in. Now it seems like when you listen to the base and the people around him, it's like, don't worry, the advisors are gone. Don't worry, we don't have those shill advisors anymore. Now we only have based, cool Trump advisors, MAGA advisors, people who love our movement or with. So it seems like those guardrails are off. And his advisors have been trying to tell him to stay on message, don't go in personal attacks. And I know this because he goes out in front of crowds and he says, hey, my advisors say I shouldn't do personal attacks. Do you guys want personal attacks? And then the crowd cheers, yeah, personal attack, woo. And then he does personal attacks anyway. So we know it because he says it openly that they're trying to get him to stop. And he isn't. And not only is he not, but he's digging in and he's going after Kamala Harris' race. He's going after Kamala Harris' sexuality, which we're going to talk about in a moment. He's going after them and the idea that he's going to throw them all in prison. He's going to have military tribunals. He's throwing out QAnon slogans. And we're doing this within 80 days to the election. If he was doing this 2 years in advance to slowly like simmer, like the simmer, you know, going into the election, I think there might be some like Machiavellian plotting, like, oh, it's smart. Like you foster these movements years in advance. But then when the election comes around, like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, where we go into the election, you know, we all go into the election, you know, tiny things like that. But like maybe there could be some Machiavellian scheming. But no, he's basically just like putting like the QAnon flag on the back of his pickup truck and driving, like doing wheelies and doing like burning out in front of the local Walmart. That's what I'm seeing here on Trump's Truth Social. And you think I'm playing with you, but let me show you some of this stuff. Or let me read a little bit of it, and then I'll show you the worst of it. Because I don't want to pull up every single social media post, but I'll read you what's on most of it, and then I'll show you the worst one. The former president began posting a string of messages Tuesday evening after Smith filed a new indictment against him. Also, again, like I said, the legal problems. This is also something that's frustrating him. He's getting poked by legal problems. His numbers are down in the polls. He doesn't have the energy he used to, and he's starting to slow down and I even think slip a little. And people are noticing. The majority of Americans don't think he's mentally fit to be president of the United States. And now that he's not running against Joe Biden, where people had a similar question to his capacity, people are noticing more. And people should notice more. People should have noticed more then too, but people are noticing more now. The new indictment keeps the same criminal charges but narrows the allegations against Trump following Supreme Court opinion last month that extended broad immunity to former presidents. Basically, they took 7 pages out of the previous indictment, said, hey, these things about immunity when it comes to like presidential powers, well, we understand that. We still think we can get him because we think that even with those protections, which are not even clearly defined yet, he still is engaging in criminal acts that he could be held liable for. Trump reposted a doctored image that was made to look like President Joe Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, in orange prison jumpsuits. They were all behind bars, one after the other, among other political figures, all types of, you know, like left-wing political figures. And it had them all behind bars, and it was like, we're going to put them all in prison. We're all going to put them in jail. One post seemed to suggest former President Barack Obama should be tried in a military court. To be clear, this is misinformation. AP, okay, you hack journalists. I don't know if you guys use AP, but please, fake news, disgusting, liars. Trump said military tribunal, okay? Lying liberal media. Trump has long talked about seeking retribution against perceived enemies if he wins a second term, yada, yada, yada. Is there any other post that this wants to talk about? Because I guess, look, there's a lot really bad, but I'll show you the QAnon one and then I'll show you the worst one. Trump then began showing more than a dozen posts from other users on the network that including calls for Smith to be prosecuted. That's the person who's, you know, that's the guy who's giving him legal trouble right now. That's the person who's bringing back the indictment. The lawmakers on the House committee investigating the Capitol attack to be jailed. So those who were like on the committee that were investigating January 6th, jail them. Don't even investigate them. Just boom, prisons and more. One image showing Smith with devil horns and red eyes. He is his media intake is as much as everyone else's just a feed of like weirdly like evangelical. The enemy is the Satanist. The enemy is the devil. The enemy is child trafficking. The enemy is he's consuming that same gunk that we're seeing online, and he's not necessarily like the origin of a lot of it. I think he consumes a lot of that. I mean, he's on Truth Social, Trump. What do you think he's doing on Truth Social when he isn't posting? Do you think he's just like, you know, do you think he just posts and then puts it away? I think it wouldn't be that surprising if he's scrolling around there. I mean, he must, because he's retweeting this. I don't think this is staff. I think this is him. I think we've all been rightly proven that he is the person controlling the social media, and he's consuming that. He's taking that in. When he sees these like crazy theories about bamboo paper, this is where he's getting it from. Trump, the president, the former president, and possibly future president of the United States, main news source, in my mind, is almost certainly Truth Social. Will he continue to be Truth Social once he's in the White House? I mean, he was still on social media quite a lot in the White House, and at like 1 a.m. when he wakes up and is on the toilet and tweeting, he's scrolling, and he'll go past people, even if he doesn't believe. If he wants to believe something, he'll believe it and he'll go forward with it. That's what happened around the election again and again and again. When he started seeing theories online, he'd go to staff, say, is it bamboo paper? Is it all fake? And they'll say, no, it isn't, Mr. President. And then he just either fire them, go around them, or just not care and ignore them. Anyway, continuing. Some of the other posts Trump shared included phrases circulated among followers of QAnon, the pro-Trump conspiracy theory, including nothing can stop what is coming, hold the line, and where we go one, where we go all. Now, let me be clear. The image of Trump and I wonder if I can get it. Trump, QAnon, social media post, Truth Social. I gotta find the picture of this, because it's not like hidden. It's not like, oh, it's off in the corner, we have no clue where it is. Like, oh, where is it? The type of images Trump is posting is like stuff like the storm is coming. And one of them I saw was just like where the QAnon slogan just straight in the middle of the screen. I wish I could find it, because all these places don't post pictures from Truth Social. They're all just I don't want to go to Truth Social and find it again. But the point is, like, it wasn't hidden. It was like in the middle of the screen. Where we go one, where we go all. The slogan of QAnon, smack down in the middle, and he's reposting it. He's pushing it. And he's not just the one, it's multiple of those. He's multiple posts like that. Okay, now, the last one I wanted to talk about when it comes to these crazy posts he's making. Mind you, less than 80 days out from the election. Remember when the Hollywood Access P tapes, people thought it was like the death of his campaign back in 2015? Well, look what he's posting on social media. Look at this. This is Donald J. Trump. He retruthed it. It's a picture of Hillary Clinton with Kamala Harris, and the response in below, which was reposted by the 45th president of the United States and possible 47th, was funny how blowjobs impacted both their careers differently. So he's talking about Monica Lewinsky in reference to Hillary Clinton, and in reference to Kamala, to Ms. Harris. They're saying that she basically solicited
Just Protection Fund.
There's this theory going around that she solicited sexual favors for California politicians in order to climb the ladder. I'm not proven. Not. There's nothing substantiating it. She dated somebody who's like influential, and then she became influential herself. And so people say, see, the reason she did that was because she was. No, like that. That doesn't prove anything. Okay, I've seen many people date people who are influential. That doesn't make you necessarily influential. You still, like, she was able to become vice president of the United States. She climbed the ladder. So this is just degrading Kamala Harris's achievements down to she is a woman. Her body is what's valuable about her. She gave that away. That's the only reason she's in power. And of course is referencing, Bill Clinton, which I don't really care much about that reference. I mean, less. But the second one I think is pretty gross. And look, like this, if this is like boomer humor on Facebook, it'd be one thing, but this is being reposted by the president of the United States, former president of the United States, while on the campaign trail this far out. And it's going to only be boosted more and more and more and more and more. And this is going to be the rhetoric on the campaign trail. This is going to be the rhetoric on the campaign trail. And this is happening as his campaign advisors are telling him to reel it in, concentrate on policy, concentrate on policy, concentrate on policy. He cannot concentrate on policy. He's reverting back to his base instincts. He sees the poll numbers down. He sees the fundraising down. He sees Harris rising. He sees Walz rising. And he thinks it's time to get back in the saddle. It's time to put my spurs back on, get my old six-shooter, and go back to calling everybody the R-slur, right? That's basic. That is what I think Trump is trying to do. But it's 78 years old. The modern, the modern warfare servers have been closed down for a bit. You know, the times of like high school era bullying have changed, and it's been 9 years of Trumpism. He's starting to slow down. I think people are starting to get a little sick of the gimmick. You know, you ever watch a wrestler wrestle a little too past his due date? A little too past his due date? And now combine it with them basically being the face of the company for 9-10 years. And you get to choose if he's going to be the face of the whole country for 4 years after that. I don't think that charisma factor is going to be helping him much, and I think this doesn't do anything but degrade him at this point. And I think it's part of the reason why the Harris campaign has not responded much to this, is they're kind of like almost letting it speak for itself in some way. They hit on it every once in a while. They mention it offhand, but the stuff they're attacking Trump over is mostly like going to go after abortion, Project 2025. It's not the cordiality of Donald Trump. They're letting that speak for itself. Whether that'll work or not, or whether they should continue to hit on that, I don't know. I think I like the idea of letting it generally speak for itself, and just letting the social media accounts and campaign staff talk about it. But this isn't the only thing I wanted to talk about, why I think Trump or his campaign might be losing it, or why I think Trump, because the title of the stream is Trump's losing his grip, and I think he's losing his grip when it comes to his ability to do what got him into the office well. And I think also the gimmick's getting old, so even if he could continue to do it well, I think it would still come with problems. But I also think that Trump's trying to grab a grip on the campaign more and yank it back from his staff and say, screw it, no personal attack stuff isn't working, even though he never stopped. He never stopped, but he's like, no, we tried your idea, even though they really didn't. Now I'm going to do it my way again. And one way of trying it, maybe Trump's way, is the attack ad he tried to make at Arlington National Cemetery for political purposes, even though it is federal law that you are not to use these grounds, especially Section 60, which is one of the most hallowed grounds of Arlington National Cemetery, for political ads. And he went there with the families of fallen service members, went to Section 60, and then one of his staffers started not only taking pictures, but eventually filming for what became a social media like campaign pitch, a political ad, an attack ad. Mind you, it's against the law to do this. It's against the law, I think, even like take pictures, let alone use it for like political, for the campaigns to take pictures, let alone use it for partisan political purposes, let alone of all the partisan political purposes isn't I stand with the troops, but use it as an attack ad. Use the mounds of dirt that show the hallowed grounds of where these soldiers lie as just like another thing to throw in a smear campaign. It's not very cordial. It isn't very cordial. But the worst part of it is, as this was happening, and even that in and of itself would be bad, but I don't know if it would have gotten that much attention or even much of a rebuff. People might have just looked the other way, saying we don't want to cause a scene. We do not want. There's so many things that have become politicized in our society. So many things, from our public health, from the Fauci ouchie, from so many different things that became politicized that we really wish didn't. Ukraine aid a little bit. The last thing people want is for Arlington National Cemetery to be politicized. But the problem is, as they were trying to do this campaigning, and that's what I'm going to call it if you're filming it for a campaign ad, as they were trying to do this campaigning at Arlington National Cemetery, and they were filming, somebody tried to block them. One of the staff at Arlington National Cemetery, who take the place very seriously, because if there is sacred ground in the United States, it is Arlington National Cemetery. It's where we bury our war dead. From World War II all the way up to when we talk about Section 60, the reason why that area is so important and why it's especially sensitive is because that's war dead from recent conflicts. Afghanistan, Mali, those people who are, that's what that is. And so I think that when you consider how private that is in the whole facility, doing it there of all places, makes sense that they would intervene. But apparently, Trump campaign staff then just shoved them out of the way, the Arlington National Cemetery staff, and then proceeded to film the campaign ad anyway and take the pictures anyway. After that, once this got out, what had happened, the Trump campaign, of course, denied it. Trump himself, I don't even think has commented on it. The Arlington National Cemetery worker who was in the altercation and was pushed aside, they said that they're not going to seek charges, in large part because they do not want to invoke the wrath of the movement, so to speak. And that doesn't really matter, though, because and by the way, can I just show you the ad before we move on? Because when I say it was an attack ad, I just want to be clear. It was an attack ad. Listen to this. This is what he decided to do at a recent gravesite of recently deceased people, many of whom did not agree. Some of whom, when they saw this, they actually released public statements and were like, we're not happy with this. Because their sons and daughters' grave sites, their headstones are in these pictures, and it's like very recent, it's very recent wounds. They don't really want it to be publicized. They certainly don't want it to be politicized, and they're in a campaign ad. Look at this.
We lost 13 great people. What a horrible day it was, man. We didn't lose one person in 18 months. And then they took over that disaster, the leaving of Afghanistan.
And then they took over. He's using it as a... Now, number one, if we're going to politicize it, and it was to get truly politicized, we'd have to talk about the Doha Agreement, the foundation he laid down. We'd have to talk about what plan he had for withdrawal, what plan they passed over to the Biden administration, which was not much at all. I mean, like, if we're going to politicize it, we'd have to politicize it properly. But the point is, this isn't a place that's supposed to be politicized, let alone politicized for attack ads. Politicized for attack. Doing this just to fluff your own image by saying, I love the troops is one thing. And that's still, I don't really like that. Because it would still be, I think, like a political ad of sorts. You're not allowed to do that. But they didn't even do that. They made it an attack ad. They used recent war dead in an attack ad at their grave sites. Not on the campaign trail. At the feet of the war dead, they used them as an attack ad. As part of a smear campaign. When Donald Trump himself, in my mind, if we're going to politicize it, I think holds some of the blame for how the withdrawal went. Not just him. I do think some of the blame lays at the Biden administration, which I get critiqued by my Democratic colleagues for saying, but it is what it is. But he's using this as an attack. It's horribly gross to me. It's disgusting.
John Brown Enthusiast has donated $5. The most depressing part is the number of service members who buy this coward's political slop.
Thank you so much for the $5. I appreciate it. I mean, look, we have our service members largely come from states that are conservative leaning. It makes sense. We'd have a pretty conservative military. But man, if I would tell you that Donald Trump, what he said about the Medal of Honor, if I didn't get some texts and I didn't hear some stories about that really shaking some people around Donald Trump when they heard him try to say that the Presidential Medal of Freedom, when he was giving it to Republican mega donors, I forget. Oh God, was it the Presidential Medal of Freedom? I believe it. Donald Trump, Presidential Medal of Honor. Oh my God. So mind you, in the clip you're about to see, he's giving a Republican donor, somebody who donates to the Republican Party. Not saying they're a terrible person, but that's what they do. That's his relationship with them, is that they give his political entity money. He's saying that them getting the award that they just gave them, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, when he gave it to them, that's actually better than the Medal of Honor, which people get for, you know, basically being willing to die for the country.
I watched Sheldon sitting so proud in the White House when we gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian.
Let me just say this. If Rush Limbaugh can get it, it is not equivalent or better than the Medal of Honor. That is my one and only statement around this, but let him finish.
Highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets, or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. It's right. And they're rated equal.
What's crazy about this is, like, in this statement, he defines why one might be more significant than the other in the eyes of basically everyone, which is like if in this medal you gotta like lose your legs and stuff to get it for the country. But she's like, fine, and she got this medal. Man, it must be better, huh? She gets to keep her legs. That's his pitch. Look, I never knew if I believed that story that was reported by people around him. It was just an individual quoted near him that said that he called service members losers and suckers. I never knew if I really believed it because it was just like so. It just felt like such. It felt like there's two things you could do to just destroy your political campaign, and one would be if Trump went up there and I would say maybe yelled the N-word for 10 minutes straight. And the other would be if you went up there and like condemned the troops and burnt the flag. And that's as close as you could get to the second within reality, basically calling troops suckers. But then when I hear him say something like this, it's not that I now 100% believe it, but it makes it more believable. Because to me, it seems like he doesn't understand the concept of sacrifice in the armed forces, which is maybe made more clear by the fact that he was a draft dodger. But I mean, we also probably, I'm not a big Vietnam War supporter, so it's like one of those wars. It's like, well, I mean, if it was a World War II draft dodger, maybe we'd be talking about something different. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. So this guy, I don't know if you guys know who this is. This guy is Stephen Chung. He is the Trump campaign spokesperson. If you've never seen him before, don't be surprised because Trump usually speaks enough. The news stations have enough time, you know, trying to get all the crazy Trump stuff that they want to put on air. The last thing they need to do is now get another person to speak for him. But sometimes they do, because sometimes Trump is not available, and sometimes they need to have somebody on at short notice, and that's where somebody like this comes in. And so, and it's not only where somebody like this comes in these instances. Sometimes an issue is so toxic, it seems like, that even Trump, or maybe the people around him, are smart enough to know, don't let Trump touch this. Like, imagine Trump having to touch this issue. Be like, yeah, but I mean, that staff member was a loser. And he says that on the campaign stage or on the debate stage. Oh my God. Could you imagine? So instead they send this guy out, okay? They send out this munchkin, and he comes out, and we'll show J.D. Vance's response in a second. But what he says is, let me read it. I have it written down here. I have the message written down in all of its glory. This is what he says about the Arlington National Cemetery staff. The fact is that a private photographer was permitted on the premises, and for whatever reason, an unnamed individual clearly suffering from a mental health episode decided to physically block members of President Trump's team during a very, very solemn ceremony. He just said, you're mentally ill. And that was it. He just said, crazy broad, and just kept walking. This is terrible. I couldn't think of a worse response than this. Just either don't respond at all, or like quietly be like, yeah, well, you know, it was a misunderstanding, etc. Don't be like, actually, the people who, you know, maintain the most hallowed and sacred ground in the United States, if there's anything sacred, it is there. They're actually just mentally ill. Like, who would get into the business of maintaining Arlington National Cemetery but a crazy person who wants to be around all those dead bodies all day? Like, this is crazy. Why would he do this? This is like the shooting yourself in the foot. Shooting yourself in the foot. And this is exactly why that staff member did not want to really go out there, get in the public and start swinging or saying anything, because they didn't want this type of response, but they got it anyway. They got it anyway, not just from Trump's, supporters, but from his campaign staff, his campaign spokesperson, the person who was hired to speak for Trump. The person's like, oh, Trump can't speak. Let's get somebody else who's not Trump to speak for him. I know. Let's hire someone else who's absolutely insane. So can I just throw out there, though, that this wasn't the only response we got, because J.D. Vance seems to be the attack dog for Trump, where anytime the Trump campaign takes an L, or anytime there's like an issue they're not doing well on, or anytime, J.D. Vance takes an L, he's the person out there counterpunching. I see it constantly. He's the person sent out there to do this. What's interesting to me about this, though, is that I don't see J.D. Vance around Trump. Do you? I've seen RFK Jr. and Donald Trump around each other more and talking more than J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump even was making social media posts referring to the Trump RFK ticket, as if RFK himself had knocked J.D. Vance off of the VP pick. Of course, he's just trying to hover up as many supporters as he can, trying to get, make a moment, but that moment knocks J.D. Vance down a peg. Is it that J.D. Vance has been so unappealing and the response to him so negative and his favorabilities just continue to plummet that Trump's like, I have enough trouble as is. I don't need to be stuck next to a rock that'll sink me. Your job now is nothing more to be loyal when you're VP. And when I say certify or don't certify the vote, you say yes or no, sir. I don't know. Either way, though, he's doing his attack job the best he can. But something's interesting in this clip, and I want to know if you notice it too. There's something strange that happens in JD. Almost like a sense of shame grabs him by the collar in the middle of him saying this, before he's about to say it, as he reads the teleprompter that's in front of him. And he's about to stop himself, and then he just goes through with it anyway. Listen to this.
One, could you tell us more about the altercation that happened at the Arlington Cemetery? And two, what does debate prep look like for yourself and for Trump at this time?
Well, I think, first of all, the altercation at Arlington Cemetery is the media creating a story where I really don't think that there is one. There is verifiable evidence.
Why are they They don't know anything about it. They don't know anything about it. The lemmings have come to town. Whatever.
There is verifiable evidence that the campaign was allowed to have a photographer there. They were invited to have a photographer there. There's verifiable evidence that the families of these poor people who had their loved ones die 3 years ago at Abbey Road,
It's a really bad moment for a voice crack.
They had, Abbey Gate, those 13 Americans, a lot of them were there with the president. They invited him to be there and to support them. That's not an insult to the memories of their loved ones. They wanted Donald Trump there, and thank God that we have a president who stands with our veterans instead of one who runs away from them.
What J.D. Vance is asking for right now is the politicization of Arlington National Cemetery. I just want you guys to realize that. What he is saying is that there were some people there who wanted Trump there. By the way, I don't know if those family members who even wanted Trump there wanted Trump to film a campaign video there. Maybe they wanted a picture with Trump for their personal possession. Did they want that for campaign purposes? Did they want him to do a shtick against Joe Biden? Use a voiceover for an attack? Is that what they wanted? And we're just talking about the people who wanted them there. What about the people who don't want them there? What about the people who have their kids buried in the ground and their tombstones are now appearing in a political ad with Donald Trump in Section 60, which is, again, recent war dead, and that type of photography and filming is banned by federal law. And Trump is on the campaign trail right now, and he's on trial after being convicted on 34 felony counts, and he still just cannot stop himself from stumbling into more crimes.
Now
we really, and plus, I'm not saying like throw the, like put handcuffs on him and take him away for this, right? But something speaks to the character of the idea that there is nothing sacred. Everything must be politicized, including the recent dead, their corpses, their graves. We will record attack ads from on top of the bodies of those who have died to protect us. Like like both of them believe, Harris and Trump believe that soldiers protect America, right? That's the idea. And so, do we really think that that's the place to be recording attack ads? Even, I mean, we already have restrictions against it. You already have a reason not to do it. Why does everything need to be politicized? Everything and anything.
Now, yeah, I mean, it is.
Also, thank you for the raid, Horseman. Thank you, Vosh.
It is amazing to me that you have apparently somebody at Arlington Cemetery, some staff member, had a little disagreement with somebody, and they have the media has turned this into a national news story. You know what I think our veterans care a lot more about? That Kamala Harris's VP nominee lied about his military service. I think that our veterans care a lot more about that.
And, hey, let's pivot away from the story of how our staff shoved our staff shoved staff at Arlington National Cemetery and we recorded an attack ad. Let's shuffle away from that to attacking the 24 years of service of another veteran. My God, just perfect PR. My goodness.
And the other
he should start a veterans NGO at this point. JD Vance, perfect representative of veterans everywhere.
thing that our veterans care. The other thing.
By the way, the thing that they're saying that he lied about, like I don't know what to talk. They're saying like, oh, he didn't become like he didn't reach the rank that he didn't. He didn't have the training to reach that rank. Well, no, he reached the rank. He just couldn't. He didn't do the training to retain the rank. Well, you know, he dropped. Nothing that they're saying is him lying about his service. When I read and I look at it, it's just them saying either they think he should have gone to Iraq and fought in Iraq. He was opposed to Iraq, by the way. So opposed to invading Iraq. He was one of, I think, like the 60 Democratic Congress people who were against invading Iraq. Well, Donald Trump was in favor of invading Iraq. But that he didn't join after 24 years of service in the invasion. But after 20 years of service, he can retire at any time. And he retired and went into politics. So, I mean, like, that isn't a lie. You could say maybe he should have been in Iraq managing logistics. But again, it's not a question of his like, oh, you're a coward. Like what? He was going to manage logistics. He wasn't going to be doing like frontline, like house raids, like going in and clearing IEDs. I mean, it's not that logistics people never get hurt, but I'm just saying like he was mostly going to be doing paperwork and management at the role he was serving in if he was going to go into Iraq.
Veterans care a lot more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a single investigation or a single firing. I don't, look, sometimes mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about
who got fired after the people got killed in Mali under the Trump administration. Like sometimes when soldiers die, the thing is, you don't solve soldiers' deaths by just like firing some. I understand like somebody has to pay. I understand that like that urge, but how do we know that just firing somebody is like this fix here? What if it has to do with like poor communication infrastructure between like branches? What if it has to do with like poor what if it has to do with something outside of like the fault? I mean, like, of course you climb up the ladder. Eventually you find someone at every level who will be held responsible for something. But I mean, I don't know if this is just like, if there is somebody who needs to be fired, fire them. But this feels more performative.
a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
She can go to hell. She can go to hell. I really like the moderated tone we've taken since we acknowledged the political divisiveness was a problem since the shooting. I do want to say that Kamala hasn't even like commented on this story. So when he tells her to go to hell for attacking the campaign over the Arlington National Cemetery stuff, she hasn't even talked about it. She didn't talk about it on the campaign trail. She didn't talk about it in an interview. She hasn't even mentioned it. I think like one of her staffers said it was sad, and when I say that's it, that's it. They said that's really sad that he did that, and that was like the entire response from the entirety of their campaign, not Kamala. So he's literally debating in the shower, debating his shampoo bottle. That is what he is doing right now. He's just doing it on the national stage. He can't like tussle with her. I mean, like there's real things you go after, like fracking if you want to pin Pennsylvania. There's like real things that you could do to try to win from a conservative angle here, and instead you're debating the shampoo bottle. This did only get worse though for the Trump campaign, and there was fuel added to the fire when the army came out. And when I say the army, I mean the United States Army, to defend the Arlington Cemetery staffer that was attacked by the Trump campaign. The Army on Thursday defended a staff member at Arlington National Cemetery who found herself in a brief confrontation with two men working for the Trump campaign, saying in a statement that she acted with professionalism during the encounter and that her reputation has been unfairly attacked by the former president's representatives. And the woman, whom Army officials have requested remain unidentified because of concerns for her safety, sought to restrict photography by the Trump campaign in accordance with federal regulations barring partisan activity at the cemetery, the final resting place of more than 400,000 U.S. troops, veterans, and family members. Former President Donald Trump was there to mark the third anniversary of a suicide bombing during the evacuation of Afghanistan that killed 13 troops. Man. And in Section 60 as well, I still can't believe in Section 60. So now the Army has come out and condemned not condemned the Trump campaign, but really stuck up for the staffer the Trump campaign is going after.
Walz would have had to serve 27 years if he were to make to Iraq. I believe his unit got there 3 years after being called up.
27 years of service is what they wanted is what Vance wants from Walz. How many years did Vance serve? I don't think it was 24 years. But again, like comparing the veteran service to another veteran service, this is like a stupid rabbit hole to go down. Because by the way, if you don't think that you can find veterans who have a more extensive record of service and heroism than J.D. Vance in the armed forces, you are mistaken. Anyway, let's not politicize the graves of dead veterans. Let's not do that. I think that's bad. I think that's awful. And I think it's even worse when you do it from basically on top of the graves. Trump is back on the horse. This type of stuff, like from the graves of the dead veterans attacking, this is the type of like Prigozhin would do. This is the type of stuff you would see from him. And you're seeing it from Trump back in the saddle, I think trying to grab the campaign back by the reins and take it back from his staff who have been telling him no personal attacks. And now he's like, screw it. And I don't know if at 78 years old, this cowboy can ride anymore.
Give me your tits. Give 'em to me. Your tits belong to me.